Hey guys, welcome to Google authorized Android app development training by Collabratech. Uh, Let me just give you a brief introduction of Collabratech. Collabratech is a leading emerging technologies training provider unit. TACT is an award-winning training arm of Collabra itself. TACT has a global footprint as it is having nearly 40 offices across the globe, including US, Canada, India, Philippines, and many more. Till the date, Collabratech has trained around 10,000 plus professionals in various technologies. And if we talk about corporate side of Collabratech, we have 350 plus clients across the globe, and we are amongst the top three vendors for 75% of our clients. TACT is the best in class training on emerging technologies, and this is the proof of that. These are the various awards received by Collabra TACT, and now we have some partners as well. We are Hortonworks partner, then Advantage partners with Mapar, then business partner with IBM, and now we are authorized training partner for Android with Google developers. These are some clients. So you can see some big names in this frame. These all are TACT's clients as far as corporate training is concerned. So this is the brief introduction about Collabra TACT. Moving forward, I am Shreyans Bausa. This is the brief introduction about myself. If we talk about my professional career or experience, I have more than 4+ years experience in Android development and training. However, I was involved in Android development since my bachelor's. As an Android trainer, I have trained over 700 students and IT professionals on Android app development. I have delivered Android app development training at various institutes and universities. I am actively involved in research as well. I am doing research regarding multi-agent systems and real-time problems. I have received 2 awards for that as well. I have 2 international publications on the same. And if I talk about my applications, I have 2 applications on the Play Store right now, and more 3 are in the pipeline. So this was the brief introduction about me. So let's we start with our Android app development. So first I need to cover that how this whole training program will proceed. So we discuss about the roadmap for Android application development training. If we see the roadmap, it includes 4 points. Very first thing we have to do for Android app development is to set up the environment. Once the environment is set up, we'll start developing the things. We'll understand the requirements. We'll start developing some UI elements. Then we do some logical coding. And once we are done with that, what we'll do that we'll test our application. We'll debug our application. And at later point, we are ready to publish that thing on Play Store. So let's say as of now, you are at this point on the scooter. So get ready guys, we are starting our journey. At the very first point in today's session, we are going to discuss about what is Android, how it was born, some history about Android, then current market scenario, how Android developers are getting jobs, what is the demand, that thing we are going to see. Then on the next station, we are going to cover the development tools for Android application development. So we'll come to know about Android Studio, that is the official ID for development of Android applications, how to install that, how to use that, some key components like Gradle, then Android debugging bridge, then SDK, obviously, software development kit, and AVD manager, that is Android virtual device. So we'll see that how we can use Android Studio with Gradle build tools and how these components are useful to develop any Android application. Once we are done with that, we'll move towards the biggest topic, or I can say the huge topic, that is a development part. So this is the main part where we'll be spending most or the maximum time. Sorry. In this, we are covering core building blocks like activities, then intents, services, broadcast receivers, content providers. Then we'll come across some UI and UX development. Obviously, we are using material design in that. Then we'll come to know about how we should or how we can work on databases or with databases in Android, like local database like SQLite, and how we can access remote database with some web services. So that will be included in networking part. Then we'll come across some APIs like Google Map API. We'll see how to work with existing APIs. We'll understand the Android storage system, internal and external both. Then we'll cover that how we can create a home screen widget that we are using in our Android phones. So this all will be covered in development part. After that, we'll be reaching to the next step, that is testing and debugging. So this is the most essential part for any software development process. Once you have your product ready, you must test it. So in Android, we basically follow these two types of tests, unit test and instrumentation test. Then we are going to see how we can debug the application, how we can use logcats to minimize the errors or minimize the efforts of developer. And at last, when we achieve that, we are ready to publish our application to the Play Store. So how you can publish your application to Play Store, how to generate that signed APK, how to use that Play Store console, and that thing will be covering in last session. So this is the whole roadmap of Android application development. And once you go through that, this is where you will be reaching. So the whole course curriculum of this training, I have divided it in 12 different units. The very first unit, that is Android history and introduction. So we'll be talking about how Android was born and what actually Android is. Then we'll come to know about, as I told you, basic building tools, the development tools. Then from third unit, we'll be starting the development part. So it will start with activities, UIs, intents, then how to use some styles, themes, material design in Android, how to work with menus. Then the important concept, threading, how we can use async task, loaders and handlers in Android. Then the most demanding part, that is fragments in Android nowadays, as new designs are uh, working on these fragments only. So we'll be covering those fragments and some advanced views like recycler view, card views, and all those things. Then we'll be covering services, notification, and broadcast receivers. These are the essential part of Android development. We are going to cover content provider and job scheduler, SQLite database, and remote database with networking in Android. Then again, internal and external storage system, how to create app widget, how to work with Google Map, and how to use functionalities of Google Map API that we are going to cover in 11th unit. And in the last unit, we'll perform a testing. We'll see how we can debug the application, and at last we'll publish our application to Play Store. So this is how the training will proceed. So let's start with our very first unit, that is Android history and introduction. So before beginning with Android or talking anything about Android, I just want to cover a few topics from Java, because as right now Java is the language that we are using for Android app development. Although there are many more ways you can develop an Android application, but the base way I can say, or the perfect way, we have to use Java language. It is a different thing that now Kotlin language is getting more and more popular with Android app development, but still it is in baby stage. So we'll be continuing with Java. So before going into Android detail, we need to see about some Java concept. One of them is polymorphism, then inheritance and interfaces. I know these are very basic concepts, but why I'm covering this, because this will be frequently used in Android development. So if, let's say, any of you are not aware about this or forgotten this concept, I'm just making sure that you you revisit these things, and it will help you to develop your Android application easily. So let's talk about polymorphism. As this cartoon suggests, we have only one method here, that is pick, and according to different objects, it will behave differently. So this is the main concept of polymorphism. Let's say, let me take one example here, so it will be more clear for you. Let's say I have one method called find area, and in that I'm providing two things, that is length and width. So this particular method will find the area based on length and width. So logic part will be over here. I'm declaring the same method again, that is find area, but this time I'm providing a different thing, that is radius in double. Now this method will have a logic to find area based on radius. So you can see these two names or two methods are having same name, but they are performing different tasks based on their inputs, we can say, or the types of inputs. So this is the basic idea about polymorphism. It will reduce the complexity of programming, and it will help developer to remind or remember a less number of functions. So this is the one thing you need to understand, that how polymorphism is used. The second very important thing, obviously, inheritance. This is the base on which Java has built. So we all know that inheritance is nothing but inheriting properties from limitations of inheritance in Java. The biggest limitation that it does not allow multiple inheritance. So multiple inheritance means, let's say, one subclass or one child class cannot have more than one parent class. So this is one of the limitation of inheritance. This again helps developer to reduce the code, and it will use the existing code effectively. But as I told you, it has some limitations. To understand this particular scenario, let me tell you one story. Maybe it will make it more clear. Let's say, so I will be talking about interface in later, but to visualize that story, let's say there is one father. Okay, so let's say there is one father and he's having three children. Okay, so his father is having three children, and what this father does that he he told his children that you all have to worship Lord Shiva. Okay, this is the rule. Let's say the father has told that this is the rule from my side that all of you have to worship Lord Shiva. So this is one type of inheritance. These three children are inheriting something from the father. Now in this case, what happens that all of these three are worshipping Lord Shiva only because that is the rule. So this is one of the uh, biggest, I can say, limitation or disadvantage of in inheritance, that it is a tightly coupled thing. Like if father is telling that you have to worship Lord Shiva, each child will worship Lord Shiva only. So this is one of the limitations. So to overcome this situation, we have interfaces in Java. So it is not a different thing than inheritance, but it will help to reduce limitations of inheritance. Let's say the same story we continue with like this, that the father is telling to uh, his sons that you have to worship a god. So this is the rule made by father, that you have to worship a god. Now again, that is an inheritance. Okay, father is giving some rule. These three are obedient enough and they are following this rule. But now father has told that you have to worship a god, not a specific god. So what can be done that this first child can worship Lord Shiva, that this second child can worship another god, and the third one can also worship another god. So in this case also there is an inheritance, there is a father's rule, all the children are following father's rule, but it is known as loose coupling. So this is very important aspect of programming, that if you are inheriting something from the parent side, it is not necessary that you have to use it in that way only. So interface is one thing that achieves this thing. Again, it obtains a full abstraction. You can see here again a father told that you have to worship a god. That's it. Which god, how they worship, it's none of the business of a father. So this is the abstraction. It obtain multiple inheritance, that is the limitation of simple inheritance. So why we are using interface, that to overcome the limitations of inheritance, and that is why it is a very important topic. Here you can see in this picture that, and if you notice one thing, every interface you come across will have a name that shows some ability. Let's say barkable, runnable, flyable, swimmable, like this. So in this case, let's say animal can run as well as a machine like car can run. So this is a dual inheritance, I can say multiple inheritance. Okay, so this is the thing that interface why it is used. So there are more topics like exception handling, threading, and all those things that will be covering with coding only. But these three things are essential to cover uh, at the beginning. So this was just a brief introduction of these three things. Now let's jump into Android. What is Android? In very simple terms, I would say it's a mobile operating system. Obviously, it is developed by Google. It is based on Linux kernel. We'll come to this point in later part. It is designed primarily for touchscreen mobile devices like smartphones and tablets. Obviously, it is not limited to that only now. You can see here, in addition to touchscreen devices, now Google has launched it for TVs, beers, auto. Okay, so now Android is everywhere. Any smart device or any device that can have some circuitry, you can say that in future it will have Android operating system. Okay, so at the very basic, we can say that it's a mobile operating system, but to be more precise, I can say it is not only an operating system, rather it's a software bunch. I would say that Android is a software bunch comprising not only an operating system but some key terms like middleware and applications. So this whole software bunch is known as Android. Now I'm coming to this part, Linux kernel. It is based on Linux kernel means if you have experienced this thing that when you install some application in your Android phone, it is asking you for some of the permissions. So this is the same case with Linux. In Linux, every user has different rights. So in this case, what happens that your each application is treated as the different user for Android OS. So let's say if I install WhatsApp, it's a different user for OS. Let's say if I install Instagram, again it's a different user. So each and every application needs a different set of permissions. So this is one of the example I have given to you to understand or to justify this thing that it is based on the Linux kernel. Okay. Let's say history about Android. So in 2003 October, the company Android Inc. was founded by Andy Rubin and his colleagues. Later in July 2005, Google acquired that company, and once they have merged this with Google, they build one mobile device platform with Linux based kernel. So this is where the all things were started, and on November 5th, 2007, this is one of the body, Open Handset Alliance. Uh, what they have done that they have set a goal to develop open standard for mobile devices. So with the help of this body, what they have done that they launched the very first smartphone running on Android, that was HTC Dream, and it was released on October 22, 2008. So it is still under 10 years progress, and you can see the huge growth in popularity of Android. This is one of the reason that you must go for this technology. Now if we talk about Android versions, this also has some interesting thing. Starting with Alpha, that was the first version of Android. Obviously it was a testing version, it was not commercial one, but the very first version of Alpha. Then we had a beta version, and it is having a patent of alphabetical order, you can see. So don't need to remember this versions as it is in alphabetical order. So C Cupcake, this is the first commercial version for Android. And at last, right now we have a Nougat, that is 7.0. Obviously, Google has announced a next version, that is O. The name yet has to be decided, but it is still in developer preview stage. But for users, we have the latest version, let's say Nougat. So you can see all of these versions are in alphabetical order. Okay. Now going more deep into a technical part. This is the simple Android platform and architecture. As I told you, it is not only an operating system, it is a bunch of some softwares. So at the very base, as I told you, we have a Linux kernel. Then on the top of that, we have this hardware acceleration layer, which is followed by some native libraries like this audio manager library, some local database like SQLite library, media frameworks, and all those things. Then we have some Android runtimes like Dalvik. Now we have these ADBs as well. Then on the top of that, we have a core Android framework. This is where we are using our development tools. So these are content providers, different managers like location manager, then support fragment managers, and all those things. And on the top of that, at the top stage, we have some native applications. First, we have some native applications, I can say. So these native applications are those applications which, in simple terms, which we can't delete from our phone. This is inbuilt applications, we can say. Whatever applications we download from Play Store that resides here, that is a third party applications. These all are known as third party applications, but these applications are native applications. So this is the simple platform and architecture for Android. And now some interesting facts. I'm talking about 2015 right now. I have a latest report as well, but let's say for this, according to a Gartner report, you can see that this is the market share of smartphone devices. And in 2015 second quarter, Android was sharing 82.8% of the smartphone market. And if you follow a latest Gartner report, you can find this figure is increased at increased up to 86%. So the latest report says that it is covering 86% of the smartphone market. So this can give you idea that how many Android users are active, nearly 2 billion. And if 2 billion Android users are there, how many apps they'll be requiring, and what is the demand for Android app developers in the market. If we talk about by industries, this is the graph that 33% retail market, and now this figure has raised to 50%. Almost all the middle level and small level industries require their own Android applications to grow their business. Then we can see Android everywhere in like technologies, in finance and services, banking sectors, multimedias, healthcare services, hospitality, trainings, everywhere, gaming, we can say. So all the industries are covered by Android application development now. So the future of Android. As I told you, it is not limited to smartphones and tablets now. You can see Android everywhere. Google Auto, let's say Google Glass, then we have Samsung cameras which had Android OS. Now we have smart watches. Google is coming with Google Car as well. So everywhere in near future you will have Android as an operating system in each of your devices. So this is idea that how an Android developer can grow his career. Okay, this is the industry requirement. This is the market demand for Android applications and thus for Android application developers. Now, this is the exciting thing, or I can say this is the most motivational slide in this course for you guys. You can see the salaries. This is the Indeed.com report. You can see the average mobile developer is getting salary of $1,07,000 per annum. And if you compare this with iOS and Android, you can see Android developer is getting uh, more salary, than any other application developers. So this is the generalized equation, this is the generalized scenario, but this can give you idea that uh, why you should grow in this development side, or what can be your future. As I told you, 86% of the market is covered by Android smartphones. So you can just imagine that uh, what type of big market is awaiting for you. So this was all about introduction of Android, how Android was born, and what is the current scenario of Android in the market. The second unit, that is setting up the environment. What is Android Studio? What we require in our system? How Gradle works? How ADB tools are working? What is SDK manager? What is AVD? How to use Android Studio? That thing we are going to cover in the second unit, and that will be in the next session, guys. So this is it for this session. If you have any queries, you can ask me, or we have our technical support team to respond to your queries, and that is 24/7 available. You can ping us on that also. Thank you, guys.